Commercial Construction Coffee Talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David Corson. I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction and Renovation magazine. This is what it used to look like. I'm grabbing some archives here. This is January 2021. Jason Sweeney, Facilities and Planning Department for AAA of Southern California. This was a great looking issue. And let's see, this was 140 pages, just chock full of stuff. I always like to see what I was doing. Oh, got a couple pictures on my publisher's page. This is me when I was about 9 years old on my first motorcycle, my little Indian, when I was playing 𝐓𝐘𝐒. And I'm a lacrosse player, so that's down in the locker room for our indoor lacrosse professional team called the Georgia Swarm, Buzz. And took my high school team out there to play on the turf. But we went digital August of 2021. And but I always like holding the magazine in my hands and seeing what I was doing. But now we're digital. Don't miss the printer. Don't miss the post office. And it's been an amazing ride. Had another, I don't know, 3.5, 4 million people that hit the website again last month consuming content, and hundreds of thousands of unique users. So for all you out there that are hitting our page, we really appreciate it. Couldn't have done it without your all gold in my eyes. And let's keep the momentum till the end of the year. It'd be nice to see if I go over 30 million interactions for the entire year. It'd be awesome. And just another benchmark to try to beat in 2025. But so far, it's been an awesome ride. In 2024, we're in the last month of Q3, and then the last quarter of the year. And before you know it, the holiday is going to be here, and we're going to be closing out this year. And you can look back, assess, look at the scoreboard, and get ready to do it all over again next year in 2025. And the election will be over too. No more political ads. So anyway, hope everybody had a great Labor Day weekend last weekend, and it's fall. It's still really nice here in the ATL. Mother Nature's cooperating with us, and fall weather, the humidity's kind of dying out, and a little brisk at night or in the morning. And today, just another gorgeous day here in the South. I mean, I can't complain. But July and August, sizzling hot, just sizzling hot, the dog days of summer. So I'm looking forward to fall. And, you got college football going on, and and the NFL just started this weekend. Of course, the Atlanta Falcons, I'm out of Atlanta. They lost, they fired the coach, brought a new quarterback. They looked awful. They didn't win one game in the preseason, and the QB didn't play at all, and he looked awful. And so hopefully they'll get it together and, get on their winning ways. But it was hard to watch yesterday. It just really was. And but you got NHL starting up here soon, the NBA, there's all sorts of stuff. It's just you gotta look at the schedule to see what's going on. But anyway, today I have a gentleman down in the Tampa Clearwater area. His name is Fabio Zaniboni, if I got it right. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Fabio, and he's with BubblyNet. And they do, they make buildings intelligent with their software, etc. Fabio, say hello to our listeners out there on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk.
Hello, everybody. This is Fabio.
Yeah, welcome. And the way this works, Fabio, we're going to do it in 3 parts. You're going to tell your story, where you grew up, where you went to school, and how you ended up at BubblyNet. Then we'll talk about the last 3 to 4 years lessons learned, that we've all been on this roller coaster. Even though we've come out of the tunnel, there's still some pitfalls and speed bumps and potholes. But all in all, we're everybody's moving forward. And then you'll leave your contact info and one positive thought or phrase for our listeners, and then we'll close it out. So with that said, the floor is yours. Tell us your story.
Thank you, David. Well, I'm born in Italy. My father from Torino, my mother from Paris. So I spent my first few years in Europe. Then when I was about 6, went to South America. Dad was on manufacturing, so he went there to open a few plants. And I lived about 12 years there, between Buenos Aires, Sao Paulo in Brazil, Santiago in Chile, and so on. So pretty amazing. Teens years there. It was super fun, and it was like the dream of a city boy in Europe. Unfortunately, when I was 16, there was a military coup. Mom was working for the embassy. We had to fled the country. So overnight, Dad say, "Hey, this is no longer safe." I have so many adventures. Twice police ran after me just because I was, the wrong kid on the wrong location. And anyway, went back to Italy, did my university, my master. I'm an engineer, electronic engineer, and spent a few years as an engineer, and then getting there and staying until 2-3 o'clock in the morning to meet your bid deadline and so on was cool, but spending 12 hours a day in front of a computer was not for me. After the life that I had before, traveling the world, consider I've been living and working in over 40 different countries. So
wow.
you get addicted to the change, the differences, experiencing new angles about life and so on. So I got into first, my position was get into factories and understand how to make them more efficient. And I did that for several years. I ended up being mainly in the automotive industry and on the robotic division of Fiat. Fiat is the largest Italian company. And at the time, we had offices pretty much in every part of the world. And I also had a stint in Detroit. I was there for 5 years in the late 90s. And that's when I fall in love with America. Like I just love, how straight, everything is here. And of course, they're going to be people, you always have Americans complaining about America, but if they would be living outside America, they will realize that this is paradise. No matter what is paradise. And so went back to Detroit, got a promotion, and then I was in Germany, I was in France, and with my wife, I was always like, oh, I really would like to go back to America. And she said, well, if you want, I'm in. And then there was also this challenge about, okay, I'm an executive. How difficult it will be to be an entrepreneur. It looks pretty easy. If I'm an executive on a 20,000 employees company, being an entrepreneur with a few tens people, it will be easy. How I was wrong. So anyway, so I found a company. We started with lighting for yachts. They wanted to open an office in America. I moved here. We start the business. And I realized that the way you need to juggle all the different hats as an entrepreneur, it requires a bandwidth that executives on big multinational companies they don't get it. It's completely different. Anyway, so that's when I started in lighting. From there, I have also a sister company, Zaniboni Lighting, that does lighting, architectural lighting. And then as I was doing lighting, we were doing projects where controls were needed. And so we opened a division that was controls. So for the listeners, I was using at the time a technology called Modbus. Is kind of similar to BubblyNet that is used for HVAC nowadays in the US for HVAC. And then from there, I went to POE because I say, well, let's go low voltage. And the last big job that we did on POE, we had some national accounts. It was very interesting. And then the last job that we did was here in Tampa, was a large residence, 60,000 square feet. And everything started with, okay, we're going to just control lighting. And then you start having more circuits. And then you want to add sensors. And ownership was keep on adding devices. And we got to a point in which the harnesses of Cat6 cable, they were like a foot wide, a foot in diameter. And so I realized, well, if there is no way, particularly with code requiring, smaller and smaller zones and more sophistications in the amount of data points you want to collect in order to have your building operate like you want, going wired, it was not a viable solution. So I started investigating ZigBee, Z-Wave, different technologies. And then in 2016, I found out that Bluetooth, the same nonprofit organization that is behind the little radio that you use on your computer, your phone, your car, and so on, was developing an industrial grade standard that then became Bluetooth Mesh. And I say, well, this is it. Because as a European, I'm pretty much for open source. Linux is probably the number one operating system in the world. It's totally free and probably the most robust operating system, very difficult to hack and so on. So the concept of having many companies working on the same project and then sharing the benefit of this macro project was very kind to me. And so I say, well, let's do a Bluetooth Mesh. And so we did Bluetooth Mesh. We introduced it to the world in 2018 at Frankfurt. There is this big, every 2 years, show that is Light and Build, everything technology worldwide. And we introduced it. We were 7 companies at the time introducing this standard. This year, we were again in Frankfurt, and we were the 2 top companies introducing the latest standard, is a 2023 standard. So that's a little bit how I got into controls. I was looking for something that I couldn't find in the market. I realized that the technology it was ready to go wireless, and then we can dive into it. And particularly with what the ARM, the microprocessor manufacturer was developing the right technology. Bluetooth was delivering the right technology, and it was like this is it. And so I started BubblyNet. BubblyNet, many clients ask, well, what about that name? So BubblyNet came a night, after hours with our developers, and pizza time is like 2 o'clock in the morning, and we started fantasizing about the future, what we could do with this technology, and we say, wow, now that we can embed intelligence on pretty much anything, we could have the building really listening to your needs, and that was before really AI took over. And anyway, so the concept of BubblyNet is we want to create that ideal bubble around you where you have, the right temperature, the right humidity, the right amount of oxygen, the lighting, do you want it dimmer or brighter? Do you want it warmer or cooler? And sound masking, music, and so on. So an ideal bubble that allows you to focus and get back to your attention to the things that you're interested in doing. Now, do you want to rest? Do you want to study? Do you want to work? Do you want to heal? Well, you can really improve the building envelope way more than what we've been doing. Because if you really think about the functionality of a building, well, yes, we are way beyond the cave days, but it's pretty much we want to have a roof above us. We want to have 4 walls so that the elements are not hitting us, and then we want to have some lighting so we can operate beyond the cycle of nature. But beyond that, buildings have not been involved too much in terms of functionalities for their guests and the people that occupy them. And now that you can embed all this intelligence on pretty much anything, it opens the door to some very interesting scenarios.
Yeah, it's amazing that, you sit back and you just think that you're in that one lane lighting. And over the years, I've been a publisher for almost 25 years, and we were talking earlier, I've been in construction, but I remember when LEDs came in. I used to walk this lighting show, Light for every year here in the States. Anyway, but little by little, LED, you'd see it, but then everybody had LED. LED was everywhere, very bright, low energy, low heat. And then the control factor came in, and then you can tie everything in and have a smart building, basically telling you, hey, do you want to lower your temperature? Do you want to have this kind of ambient lighting? Whatever it might be. And so we were talking about my empty restaurant. I'm trying to make it as user-friendly as possible, and with lighting technology and green and sustainability, but I didn't want to go overboard with it, because you can sit there and look at you'll never get your project done because you're just going to keep adding more stuff, but it's amazing to have a building to be able to tell you when something is going on. And that's just technology. And now that AI has come in where it can be, embedded in there, it's even it's even more dramatic, what you can do, with your projects, whether they're residential, commercial, industrial, or et cetera. So, what a fantastic story. I've been to Sao Paulo once. I spoke at a conference. It was a big tile and porcelain show. And I remember we left, it's about 12-hour flight from Atlanta. And when you come over the Amazon into Sao Paulo, you see the concrete jungle, and it's, what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Right? It is the most amazing. It's like 6, 7 in the morning. The sun was coming up, and you're coming at everything's green. You can't see anything, and then he starts his descent, and he comes in, and then all of a sudden he comes over this one hill, and there's Sao Paulo. And I had to go speak, and everybody had their translation gig on there. And what was amazing was the trade show hall was actually semi-outdoors. It actually had walls, but it was air that came in there, and it was the coolest thing I ever saw. And after my talk, I was there for a couple of days. So we had a guide that spoke Portuguese. So I wasn't worried about going around, but what an awesome city. 20 million people in Sao
Yes.
Paulo, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's a very vibrant city. It's just beautiful, and the architecture is also very interesting because, as you were mentioning, like they love the concept of getting nature inside the building, and so they use and then they use a lot of also concrete, like exposed concrete, and so on. It's very interesting, and yeah, amazing city. I had so many adventures there.
Yeah, the association was called En Facer. I think that's what it was called. Uh, but anyway, it was a quick day. I came home, told my wife, I'm like, hey, I got my passport. Is it still, is it still valid? Because I'm going to Sao Paulo next week. I'm going down to speak in front, in front of this tile council. And but it was a great experience. And one day I ventured out on my own, and I didn't know how to speak Portuguese, and but I got back to the hotel. That was the biggest thing, And the guy that went, you went where by yourself? I'm like, hey, I'm from New York and Philly. I take the subway. I was just gonna go out, But delicious food. But one thing, like in America, like when you have a reservation at 8 o'clock, you're there. You got to be there at 8 o'clock. In Sao Paulo, dinner's at 8, but they don't eat till 11. They come in, you hang out, you have some cocktails, and then finally the food, and it was and that was the one thing I told everybody. I said, look, if you want to do business in America, if you say that you're going to make, especially like in retail, they have an opening date on the store. They have all the circulars, the promotions. So if you want to do business in the States and you say that your product's going to be delivered on this day at, 6 o'clock in the morning onto the construction site, it's got to show up because it's almost like just in time, manufacturing. And when I was looking at the way that they were doing dinners and stuff, I was like, oh my God, this is the way that the Americans work. They just want to get, you got to show up on time and get her done, architecturally stimulating, hopefully under budget or on budget, and then do the customer service gig after the project. And but it was the coolest place I think I've ever been. And I would love to go see Rio. I'd love to go into the Amazon. I swear you're over the Amazon for hours when you're flying down there, and there's not
Yes.
much light. I mean, I had a window seat. I was upgraded on the way back, on the way down. On the way back, I wasn't, and uh, but it was an amazing time. And Ron Treaster, if you're listening out there, thank you so much for taking me down there, brother, because that was an awesome gig that you did for me, and and the people are super nice, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
They're
know,
very, very nice.
yeah, super nice. So let's talk about the last 3 to 4 years. March comes along, construction, everybody's busy. And then kaput, March comes, everything stops, could be a couple of weeks, could be a couple of months. Here we are 4 years later, and we're still kind of talking about things. Talk about how you kind of, well, your company kind of started there, and you evolved, but talk about some of the lessons learned, and then we'll talk about some of the things that you see coming down the horizon, from energy controls and that kind of thing. Uh,
Yes. Okay. I would say that possibly the primary lesson learned is be self-sufficient. Since then, we have been investing in manufacturing in the US. We've been expanding our US operation, and we've been way less reliant on overseas. We, of course, in electronics, there is still a lot of components that are only available overseas, so we still need to do that. Definitely, probably that was our number lesson learned, because of course it was not possible to go overseas. It was not possible to create and keep those relationships. When you are working with, like in lighting, typically your delivery dates need to be between 2-3 weeks, and you can achieve that either with huge inventory that then becomes obsolete because there is a continuous evolution of a product, lighting and also controls, or you need to have a very well set supply chain overseas. And that was happening before 4 years ago. We had our own office, our own company. It took us several years to build a US-owned company overseas. And 4 times a year, we always would have at least 2 or 3 executives going there to train people to the way we do business here in the US. And that is the quality, is the reliability on lead times, and so on. What you were mentioning earlier about Brazil, yes, like in South America, for instance, there are things that for us are functional, like to eat, and for other cultures is more about the experience, and the function of feeding your body is totally secondary. And the function of staying within a schedule is totally secondary. Well, if you go, for instance, in Asia, in many countries, saying no is you will not be able to find somebody telling you no, because no is so offensive. No is confrontational, is offensive, is an attack, is brutal. So when you say, can you deliver? They don't say
Sure,
no.
I can.
Exactly. So you need to
I'll make it
learn.
happen.
Exactly. You need to learn and ask all those questions where, okay, very good. How are you going to do it? And then it's like silence.
I'll get back to you. I have a few ideas, but you know what? I'll come back to you when I have it completely 100% ready to present you. Does that work for you? Right?
Yes. So from one side, so it was very important to keep that relationship tight and be able to be on the same page. Of course, when traveling was difficult or almost impossible, then we had to rely on, of course, Zoom calls and so on is not the same. One thing is to inspect in person, to talk with the people, spend hours, and because when you spend hours and you have dinners together and so on, you kind of crack that social veneer fabric that includes never say no and always say yes. Anyway, so a lesson learned, I would say, number one, manufacturing in the US. I'm a very strong proponent. Not easy, David. It's really challenging. We still have situations where we buy raw aluminum at a higher price here in the US than finished goods if we would import them from overseas. And sometimes you wonder, say, how is possible that raw material on a bar costs less than the finished product? So you need to find your niche. You need to find, we do a lot of custom products. We do a lot of very intricate solutions. We deliver super fast. That will be otherwise impossible if you have an ocean and 3-4 weeks on the water to get here. So that was one. Another lesson learned was we made sure not to stick to a single vertical. So we were pretty much on office space. Office space disappeared. you need to be in office space, you need to be on healthcare. As a matter of fact, talking about healthcare was the one that kept us open, because when everything was closing down, I had a client in Maryland. We were delivering. It was a pharmaceutical company involved in what was happening, and say, no, there is no way. They send us a letter. I went to a sheriff and say, I have this letter, and they told me, well, with that letter, you can keep be open. And I would say that probably that saved my business, because I was able to keep on having all the workers coming in, and then I was also on a lucky state where everything was more relaxed, because you cannot remote operate a machine tool. Of course, all the office was remote, and that was another lesson learned. How you manage an office by remote, how you manage a project by remote, how you're able to read people by remote. But definitely, a factory, you need to be there. When you need to assemble a product and deliver a good, there is no way to do it remotely. Anyway, so I would say, manufacturing in US, having as many verticals as possible. So if you have a shift, you remember there were moments in which hospitality was totally zero, like restaurants were closed, hotels were not working, and so on. So you had to rely on other projects, and then office went down. So it's really important, without spreading too thin in terms of product range, to be able to nail down those applications on the different verticals that you're going to be strong, you're going to be good at, and keep them alive, because you don't know what's going to happen. The other lesson learned, of course, is we went through something that nobody will ever have thought about, and so you change your perspective about business, saying, well, you always need to be willing to challenge yourself with what about if these will not work tomorrow, or what about if this set of markets will change, and that's what is keeping us on our toes also on BubblyNet in terms of technology, because technologies keep on evolving very fast, and code is evolving very fast, and you cannot stay complacent and say, oh, I'm running well here, I could just be on the passenger seat. There is really no passenger seat when you are an entrepreneur.
Oh yeah, no, listen, I was with Nielsen. I went on my own in December 17th, 2001, right after 9/11, and everybody told me not to do it, and I rolled the dice. 9 out of 10 companies don't make it, as an entrepreneur. And I'm still standing here today. And believe me, I went through the real estate crash, '06, '07, '08. I mean, that went on 3 or 4 years. And the internet, crashed in the beginning. And shoot, I can look back. I went to the oil embargo in the '70s and the recessions of the '80s when interest rates were 18%. And there was, it's been a roller coaster. That's what I call life. It's a roller coaster. It's never going to be dull. Never a dull moment. You're going to
Nope, definitely exciting.
you're going to make mistakes. You better learn from them. You got to have a good attitude. You got to, keep your blinders on, keep moving forward. And that's my favorite thing. Yeah, sure, I'll get it done. I hang up the phone. How the heck am I going to do this, man? But that's just the American way. Listen, I'm American. You pull your bootstraps up and you wing it. And if the worst thing you can do is, if you don't know how to do something, like I have never built a stand-up house, but I told my wife, hey, we got to do it for the portfolio. So we'll go find the right vendors. If you find the right vendors that know what they're doing and they're on the same page with you as your vision, sure, you're gonna have to do some hand holding here or there, but that's why you hire good people to get things done, because you can't do it all. There's only so many times, as a leader of your company, you gotta hire people to get stuff done, because you can't do it all. And
Absolutely.
I totally get it. Listen, in 2020, I had my 10th anniversary event in Jacksonville. Had the most people attend. I was just rolling right along. And I was print face to face. I did receptions every month. And when everything got closed up, I was like frozen. I mean, I had to fight with my printer. He's like, I was like, look, half the offices I'm going to send my magazine to are going to be closed. Everybody's on furlough. And I had to make some decisions, and my editor, my artists were like, "Hey, let's go digital. We have all this content, blah blah blah." So very, very scary. And I remember I put that March issue out in April. I would get up in the middle of the night, and my wife would be like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "I got to think. I just have to think." And we went digital, and it's been a godsend. I mean, I was blessed that I had a digital magazine for 15 years before anybody probably had one. We had one. I ignored it, but at least I knew I had it. I just didn't realize how much content we had up on there. And but I made the transition, and like, you have no idea how many people I've talked to over the last 3 to 4 years that said they had some of the best years. They learned more about their company. They learn that there's more to work than life than just work. And the biggest thing now is, you might have a big office space, and none of your people want to come back to the office because they prove themselves that they can work out of the house. And they want to go to rock concerts. They want to go to the beach. They want to go to football games or whatever, but they don't want to go back to the office. And so that's the toughest thing that I think that C-level people that are running businesses here in the States, at least, that that's the quorum. Maybe we go hybrid a couple days a week, maybe we downsize our office. Those are a lot of decisions. Listen, occupancy still isn't back in a lot of the cities in the country. What are we going to do with some of that space? Because a lot of those office buildings, they might only have one bathroom, and but if there's a will, there's a way. You just have to find it, and there's a solution out there. Someone's going to come up with it, and they'll figure it out. And I just stay positive. One of the biggest things was negativity. You got to get rid of it. You can't surround yourself with negative people. You just have to go forward. You're going to make mistakes. You got to try. And if you don't succeed, try again. And insanity's doing the same thing over and over and getting the same result. So those kind of things. And as an athlete, I was always an underdog. I came from a small school. We're playing some big schools, and the bigger players, they're faster, they're stronger. But I just put my head down and went into the corner and did what I needed to do to survive. And no pain, no gain. That's just the way it is,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
So what do you see out there for our listeners out there in commercial construction coffee talk that will be like the next cool thing, with controls and running
Well,
intelligent buildings, etc.
yeah, so the thing that is very interesting now is that controls become small microchips that you can put on anything. And you were talking earlier about LED. The big transition between electricity to electronics is that an LED requires a driver. A driver is already an electronic component. You just add a little microchip that is, a few millimeters by a few millimeters, and now you have something that is way, way more than just a device that controls the intensity of your LED. So with this kind of technology, you can do you can attack the old problems of, for instance, energy saving. And a lot of companies right now, they committed to net zero by 2040 and so on. Yes, it's sometimes you have pressures and you need to do certain commitments. Sometimes you generally want to commit for those targets. How are you going to do that? Of course, you can decide to take a building and put double panel pane glazing, or you can change the insulation, or change your chillers and get them more efficient. But those are huge investments. Electronics allows to have very low investments with extraordinary benefits. I will give you an idea. Talking numbers, let's say that putting your most elementary controls for your lighting cost, let's say, $1 square foot. Okay, going fully electronic probably is going to be $1.50, $1.75. It's going to be anyway less than $1 to get to that next level. But getting to that next level, now all of a sudden, because you're controlling your lighting, you're controlling your HVAC, you are saving, let's say, 20, 30% on your bill. Well, if you look at New York City, roughly energy costs $3 a square foot. So now you are saving 80 cents to a dollar a year on an investment that was 80 cents. So sometimes after not even a year, you already pay back from the investment. And the beauty about going software, going IoT, going embedded electronics is now you have this mesh, you have this soft infrastructure that you can leverage to do many more things. You were mentioning earlier, for instance, space occupancy. Space occupancy is a big problem for companies because those rents are a big number. There is technology out there where you can upgrade your motion sensor to an infrared sensor that now is able to count how many people you have in a room, how people move from one area and the other of the building. And with that little upgrade and having a gateway, so a little device that push to the cloud all that information, after a few months, you can look at your multi-story office space and realize, well, I'm using this area, I'm not using this area, and now you could be saving, significantly amount of space just by saying, okay, I'm going to repurpose these. They have this big conference room, and there is always one person working in this conference room. Let's do it, for smaller office, or let's get more smaller conference room. And now back to New York, because I was there last week and we were discussing these. Rent right now in New York is about, let's say, $78 a square foot. Let's say that you save 5%, that is a very, very conservative. You increase your office occupancy, or you save 5% on your surface used. Well, now we're talking about $3-4 average square feet that you are saving on your rent. Against again an investment of, let's say, $1.50 a square foot, because now all your space has been upgraded with latest people counting infrared technology. That people counting infrared technology can now give you an idea of how the space is used, but you can also trigger your HVAC in completely different ways depending on where the people are. So when you have more people in a conference room, that heat is going to go up. And now, you can, plugging in AI knows, if there is 4 people, in about 40 minutes, I'm going to have a problem. So instead of waiting 40 minutes to then trigger the HVAC, I can trigger it 20 minutes before, so that I'm able to handle the inertia of the room. There is a lot of very interesting things that can happen. Another thing that you can do, and that we do, for instance, is apart sustainability to deal with well-being. And that is also a big push that particularly on the West Coast and also on the East Coast, tech companies are very much involved in. Because as you were mentioning, like how I can entice my talent to go back to the office. Because when they are back in the office, the fact that they interact, the fact that they can meet and so on, I'm able to have that cross-pollination that is almost impossible to have virtually. And so as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, and so on, I'm losing, that effect of having people under the same roof. Well, well-being has to do, for instance, with oxygen levels. Once you have a software mesh, now you can have CO2 sensors. So when oxygen is below a certain level, you can trigger, fresh air intake. Nowadays, there is heat exchangers that are like 94% efficient, that are amazing. And so now you're controlling oxygen levels. You can have lighting that changes throughout the day. So in the morning, it's going to be more bluish. It's going to trigger your cortisol and inhibit your melatonin. And then in the evening, it's going to be more on the warmer tones. So then when you go home, it's going to be easier for you to rest. You can use sound masking, to create environments where you can focus on your task. There is many things you can add, because now it's almost like you have already your network, that is your software network. You just add another device. It's not that you need to pull Cat6. It's not that you need to add cabinets of equipment, because every single device brings with it all the computing power that is needed in order to add that function to your space.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's been amazing transformation from just over, I would say, the last 10 years. Technology's come in. I'm the kind of guy, like, when new technology comes in or a new car, I don't want to buy it. I want them to work the kinks out for a year or so, and then I'll probably go and purchase it. I'll let someone else be the guinea pig, and figure things out. But it's been amazing. I remember when cell phones came, out. And now there's smartphones, you got the smart TV, you got, you can tie everything in. Like with our house right now, we're trying to, I'm working with an electrical company where, they deal with the lights and this and the wall washing, and they get in and you can tie everything in, and if you do it correctly, it can actually it can save you money. Might be a little more in the upfront, but the savings in the long run, it pays for itself. And it's an asset if you ever wanted to sell that piece of real estate, that it is green, it's got all the bells and whistles that you need, and it's simple to operate. Once you learn how to, technology's, it's fear. Oh my God. But once you learn how to use it, it's your friend.
You never go back.
No, no, you never go back. And it's just like here, this conversation's on Zoom. People, before before 2020, they would get on, they go drive 2 hours to go do a meeting with a punch hole list that it takes like 3 minutes to look at a piece of roof metal or whatever on the building. Do that stuff online. If you really have an issue, that's where I'm going to spend my time to go travel and so forth. So I can pick and choose. So this isn't going anywhere, but you still can't, you can't, you can't replace the interaction between humans and that cross-pollination that you were talking about, in your company and stuff. That you just can't replace that. So, but it has changed the way people, like in New York, a lot of the offices, people aren't in there on Monday and they're not in on a Friday, especially in the summer. Everybody's going out to the Hamptons. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, if you're going to go do a meeting or you're going to do an event or anything, you do it in those days because that's when the city's going to be busy. And that goes across anywhere. I mean, I live in Atlanta. It's the LA of the South. Every Fortune 500 company has an office here, and a bunch of transplants from all over the world and the country. And so you get that diversity that everybody kind of has their own way of doing things, but they all have that common thing. Hey, we want to get the project done on time, on budget, and architecturally stimulating. And then, obviously, have that sustainability factor in there. So, what an awesome conversation. Uh, it, if anybody's out there, if someone was out there on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk and they wanted to talk about, the control aspect, or they were thinking about upgrading their facility or whatever, how would someone reach out to you to bounce some questions off you?
Oh, very easily. My email address is Fabio, my first name, at bubblynet.com. Is BubblyNet.com.
Okay.
And yes, I'm going to be more than glad to answer any questions that your listeners may have.
And you're on LinkedIn, I'm sure, right? Are you on
I'm on
LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, Fabio Zaniboni, yeah, and all the different social media platforms.
So if you're out there and you're thinking about, doing a new build, or if you're going into a renovation, an old building into a new use, and you're thinking about, implementing technology, don't be scared of it. This gentleman's been on the forefront. He has, started out, now he has his own company, and he's weathered the storm. He's still standing today. Bump some questions off it. I always say, if you don't ask, if you don't know, ask, and then you'll know. And then you just kind of have to put your head down and learn how it goes. So, give Fabio a call, shoot him an email, put a message on LinkedIn, and, have a conversation to see how things are working. So, if you had one positive thought, and your story is awesome, you lived all over the world, and, you're in the States, you got your company. If there was one positive thought or phrase that you'd want to leave with our listeners as we just about finish up on this episode, what would it be?
Well, as you were earlier saying, technology is out there, and it's an amazing opportunity, and it's up to us to make it good or bad. But it's not that technology has a goal per se. It's a tool that if we use it, we could do amazing things together.
Yeah. This year I've been running 5 to 7 miles a day, and I always do, I do a little wind down up by the pickleball court, and my wife doesn't like me bringing the sweat into the house. Anyway, I always do a little, hey, this is what I did today, what's going on with my project on the lot, and then I leave a positive thought. And yesterday, talking about, fear and all that, my positive thought yesterday was, fear is just an illusion. Just blow right through it. Okay. You can't be scared of fear because it's your mind that's telling you that. But fear is an illusion. Just blow through it and you're gonna thank yourself for it. Am I right?
Absolutely. I love it.
Yeah, fear is an illusion. Blows right through it and then don't look back. So anyway, what an awesome conversation.
Thank you, David.
Couple things before we finish the episode. Number one, if you're out on a construction site, we want you to be safe. We want you to get home, have dinner with your spouse, your hubby, your wife, your kids, your pets, and catch some rest, some REM sleep, and wake up and be able to get to the site the next day. Number two, even though the heat, it's still hot, even though it's been a little less humidity down here in the south, we want you to be safe on the construction site, and that staying hydrated. You got to stay liquefied. Okay. So when you're drinking water, put some of those electrolytes in your body. Make sure your body is hydrated, because when you're not, when you get dehydrated, you get headaches. When headaches, you make mistakes. Just like on the athletic field, you make a bad pass, whatever. Drink lots of water, put the electrolytes in there. You'll sleep better. You'll feel better. You'll do better on whatever you're doing. Trust me, it works. Last but not least, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button so we can get the algorithms on YouTube to push this episode out so we can find out what Fabio had to say. And we would really appreciate it. So with that said, Fabio, if I come down to Tampa, or if you come to Atlanta, look me up. I'll take you up and I'll show you what I'm doing on the lake. And would love to meet you. And any last words for our audience out there on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk before we
No,
sign
it
off?
was an extreme pleasure. We are a community, and I love what you do of helping the community and giving back to the community. I really love working in this space, and working together is much a greater pleasure than by being by yourself.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And listen, I talked to so many cool people on my podcast. I'm blown away of how, not knowing people, I met you just before we went on. And listen, Bobby got on here once again. I know you don't like when I say this, but look, it's like playing the lottery. If you don't buy a ticket, you can't win. Fabio's publicist sent me a press release. I was looking at it, blah, blah, blah. And here he is. So send me. Look, we look at everything. I've got plenty of, it's tough getting in the magazine, but we post every day. I'm a content creator. Send me a press release. It could be on an anniversary. It could be a new product announcement. It could be a charity golf tournament that you're doing, a scholarship for skilled labor. We look at everything. We post stuff all day long. And I'm data addicted. I mean, that's what I am. I'm a data creator, content creator. So send it to us. Don't judge that book by its cover. Let us do it. My turnaround times, 24, 48 hours. We post it. We send you the URL. It's good for your SEO, which is search engine optimization. That's how Google finds you and points you in the right direction. And it's a win-win. So send it to us, and we love it because, like I said, Fabio, the only got on here is because his publicist. I didn't know who BubblyNet was until I read the press release. So there you go. So Fabio, say goodbye from down in Clearwater, Tampa, St. Pete.
Thank you so much, and I hope to see you around here.
Absolutely. And I am going to sign off here. Sugar Hill, just below the Buford Dam, up by Lake Lanier, about 25, 35 miles north of downtown Atlanta. And we will see you next time on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. Thank you, Fabio. Awesome conversation. All right. Ciao. See ya.
Ciao.